Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I want to talk about Rosita, and I really want to specifically focus on her character here and some of the stuff that we got in the trailer, and whether or not this character is actually going to die now, because now we're at that point, right? Like, we're going into episode 23. This is the second last episode of The Walking Dead. I don't know if we have any footage from 24 really. There's a couple scenes that I know of. I'm thinking of a few shots, and none of those scenes were shown in the trailer for episode 23. So I could see a scenario where some of those shots are in 24, but those shots are of like Maggie and stuff. Like, it has nothing to do with Rosita at this point. And so it's really, we're at this point. Like, if you actually look at the trailer, the Comic-Con trailer for The Walking Dead, it really looks like Rosita's gonna die. Like, it actually does look like Rosita's gonna die. We've been waiting to see these scenes, and here we are. We're actually here at this moment here where it looks like this could actually go down here. I wonder if that's gonna be how episode 23 ends. It could end on this big death here. So I want to talk about that and talk about, whether or not this could actually happen. So anyways, before we go any further, obviously, please be aware that this video will contain spoilers for episode 22. And also definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. So what the plan is going to be is, obviously this week it's just going to go as usual, though I will be increasing the uploads quite a bit. Like, I'm going to be doing a lot here because we're at the point now where it's actually getting very, very exciting here. We have 2 more episodes left, right? And this episode looks like it's going to be very action-packed. I really loved how episode 22 went. I think this episode is actually pretty action-packed as well. I don't think it's going to be as big as episode 23, but a lot happened in 22, especially towards the end there. And Mercer's line there, like his line of dialogue at the very end, really, really set up, I think, these last 2. And there's going to be a lot here. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about. There's a lot of things I want to talk about with Rick as well, in terms of how they can get into some stuff here. And then I also really want to get into, I guess, how they could end this arc, right? Like, how they could actually end the Commonwealth arc here. But after this Sunday, after November 6th, we're going to be in this new era, sort of, I guess, where we're just kind of waiting for everyone to catch up. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. I think what I'm going to do there is I'll increase the uploads. I'm going to go really crazy. The Sunday after, there's going to be this big Walking Dead-like documentary or something like that. So, we'll watch that. Maybe I'll do a review of that or give some thoughts on that. I don't know if I need to, really. I think that's Sunday because we have to wait until episode 24, right? I think I'll do a big video then, sort of recapping a lot of bigger events, sort of building up where we're going. AMC is going to be doing a really crazy marketing campaign for that final episode there. They said that last week or 2, they're going to be going pretty nuts. So there's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about here, obviously building to that very, very big event. That Sunday is going to feel so, so epic. And honestly, I'm really excited for it because I feel like in the past, it's been like that with previous episodes, right? Like, I don't know if they would ever really hype up each individual episode, but they would hype up premieres. They would hype up finales, and it really hasn't been that hyped up. And I would say I haven't really been a fan of the marketing and stuff for the final season, just because, like, on Twitter, there's no Walking Dead emoji, which is like, I know it's dumb to get upset about something like that, but the thing is, like, I'm not really necessarily upset about it. I kind of look at it like, okay, like, a lot of other shows have it, right? Like, literally a lot of other shows have it. Like, movies that aren't even as big as The Walking Dead have it. And The Walking Dead isn't even doing that. Like, I just don't understand the whole approach here to marketing this final season. I think it's been, honestly, a pretty big failure overall. I think they could have done so much more here, but they're not. I don't understand why they don't. I don't know if it's just certain people that are choosing not to do it. I don't really understand it, but I think they could do a lot more here. Anyways, the point is, they're going to be going all out here for these last 2 weeks, and that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited that we're finally going to be getting to that. So, and it's not just me saying that or something like that. Like, it's actually been confirmed. They asked, like, the AMC bosses and stuff like that a couple of weeks ago, I believe, a month ago or something like that. And yeah, they revealed that there's going to be a pretty big push there. So I'm very excited for that. I mean, it's going to be really insane. We have 2 more episodes left, and then that's it. And then we're into, Rick Grimes, I guess, Walking Dead universe territory afterwards, right? So, which obviously is probably the most exciting part out of all of this here, but yeah, still. So the big question that I have here, and the big thing that I really wanted to focus on, was Rosita. Will Rosita die? And obviously, a lot of people have been thinking this for a very long time here. I mean, there's a lot of characters I think that are rumored to die. I mean, there's a lot of characters that I think people are predicting to die as well. In terms of what I believe, I'm just going based off of the Comic-Con trailer, and I'll talk about Elijah and some of the other storylines and stuff in a different trailer. But when you're looking at Rosita's death, and at least the footage anyways, I'm not saying she's actually going to die, but at least the footage where it looks like she could die in that scene, literally, like, you actually see Rosita, like, she has Coco, so she's going to find Coco again. and she's having a hard time, trying to actually climb up that wall. I don't know how she gets out of that. And I'm just thinking of the fact that there's variant walkers now, right? Like, I believe that the horde here is actually of variant walkers. I actually think she's going to have a hard time getting out here. I think some of the variant walkers are going to, I think it might actually be the reason why she dies. So I do think she is probably going to die here. And if you just look at what's been happening with the character as of late, she's been getting a pretty big story, right? She's actually been getting a lot of screen time as well. And you go back to, I believe it was episode 21, I think, right? 20 or 21, I can't remember now, but you see her out there with Gabriel, and her story right now is basically, I just want to find Coco. I would do anything, literally, to find Coco. And she's obviously having a very hard time doing that. Like, I mean, I don't know where she is. I do think Coco and Judith and a few other characters are probably kept at the Commonwealth. I think that makes so much sense. And so I think that's where they're going to find them. And I think they'll try to escape, obviously, which is going to result in them not being able to do that. But if you think of the end of episode 22, Rosita was like literally in the face of that warden and was wondering, like, where's my daughter? And she was like, she really wanted to know. Like, she was really wanting to know, and he just didn't care. He just kind of laughed, whatever, and then died. Rosita has become so passionate lately. She's become sort of the moral compass. It really feels like this is going to happen here. And I do think it's going to be a pretty big death here. There's been a lot of rumors of things that could happen here in this episode specifically coming up here that I'll talk about probably in different videos. Like, maybe, I don't know. I think it was actually casting information actually that came out about it. But yeah, anyways, we can talk about some of that stuff later on. But I'm actually really excited to see where they're going to go here. And I think that killing her off could do a lot for the story in terms of, for Gabriel's story. I mean, it makes sense. Like, I always look back to, I think it was season 11, episode 3. Rosita had a line of dialogue where she said she was having dreams of Abraham, and Abraham was warning her of something, and she couldn't really, understand what he was warning her about. I wonder if we're going to see something like that here. If maybe there's some kind of, you never know, hallucination scene, flashback scene, or something like that. I wonder if they're going to give us something here, because that was just a line of dialogue that's always sort of sat with me. That they've never really touched on it since. I do think that was hinting at this here, and I do think Rosita is going to be a pretty big death here. Now, I guess that is kind of the debate. Is Rosita a big enough death, right? I would argue probably not in terms of the grand scale of everything. Like, if you think of it, like The Walking Dead ending, technically Daryl should be dying right away, right? Like, it should be pretty big like that. We should be getting some very, very big deaths here. It should really feel like some of our characters are actually going to go. It should feel so epic and just insane here. But it doesn't, it actually doesn't feel like that. It more so feels like this is the end of this chapter, but there's bigger things coming up. And I think that's why the spinoffs are so exciting. It's because our characters can actually die there, right? Like, there's actually a threat to Daryl. There's a threat to Negan. I mean, I would say, as long as we know that there's future seasons coming up, then there's not that big of a threat, because they'll probably still keep those characters around. But if they ever said that the Daryl spinoff, this is the final season here, this is the end of Daryl's story or something like that, then it's like, okay, he might actually die here, right? So that's what I mean. The spinoffs are kind of exciting, and I guess it takes that away from The Walking Dead. But in terms of what they can do on The Walking Dead, I do think it's a pretty big death. Like, Rosita's a really big character. To kill that character off is pretty nuts. But I think, they should have probably killed off more characters in the last season or two. Well, I guess, yeah, like over season 11 and season 10, I would say, at least the second half of season 10. I think the first half of season 10 is fine, in terms of trying to kill characters off. You did kill off Sadiq, which he was a pretty well-known character. I just think the second half of season 10 is where people start to really feel this. And then you go into season 11 and nothing has really happened so far. Alden's died. There's been a lot of no-name character deaths. So I do think Rosita's death would be a pretty big death here. I actually think it'd be pretty shocking and sad to see her go. I think a lot of people would have a hard time with it, honestly. A lot of big fans of her. And the thing is about that, though, is I think that's what I'm actually really looking forward to here with all of this is things really feeling like this could actually be the end here for some characters, is for our characters to actually experience like a pretty big death like that, because it's been quite a while. I think to actually see Rosita gone, to see how Gabriel responds, to see how everyone else sort of responds to that, and what else could happen, because other characters could go as well. That's one of those things where I think when I look at The Walking Dead, I look at those earlier seasons and stuff like that, and there was always a sense of like, where we're just trying to survive here, and and whatnot. And I think lately, yes, it's easier to survive now because they have those communities and stuff like that. But there hasn't been a lot of talk of that. And I just think that, you know, Rosita's death could create that dialogue there where, you know, they start to talk about like, oh, wow, like you think you're safe, but you're not really safe, this and that, or just whatever, you know, like I just want it to feel like it used to feel. And I think killing off a character like that would create that. I actually think it would feel like this world isn't really necessarily a safe place and zombies are everywhere. And I just wonder what that does for certain characters. Like Rosita's death, if it happens, it has to be in a way where it does serve the story, because it's going to be shocking, obviously. But how do our characters respond? How does that affect their overall drive to take down the Commonwealth? You know, there's a lot of stuff like that that I'm wondering about. And I will say, and I'll talk about this more in the video later on, because I do want to talk about how 23 could end and certain storylines that they could end on and how 24 could be. Just because, you know, I think I was always under the assumption that 23 would end the Commonwealth story, and 24, you know, I didn't think they were going to jump forward in time like 20 years or something. I originally thought that at one point, but I remember thinking that maybe they would do something like that for the very last episode, where that last episode was just more of them, you know, living in peace, and they did sort of that last issue of the comic, which obviously they can't do at this point. So it kind of feels like with where we're at now, there's going to be this big battle, there's going to be a big death and whatever. But 24, the very last episode, will also continue a lot of that battling, right? And we're going to see them still going at Pamela Milton, at the Commonwealth. And then at some point, it'll just come to an end. And it's just, again, there's still the Rick Grimes reveal. Where does that come out? We'll talk about that. There's a lot of stuff we can do in the future videos here. But yeah, I just hope Rosita's death, you know, if it does happen, it does sort of feel that. And at this point, I really do think she is going to die because of those scenes. I could be totally wrong. I literally could be totally wrong, and she's like literally 100% safe. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe it's another character. That's very, very possible. It could actually be another character. But as of now, I'm just going to say that I do think it's Rosita. Yeah, I think it could be a very, very heartbreaking scene, especially, I mean, she will be a walker, right? So I wonder if we'll actually see her as a walker later on, which I always think is kind of cool. Like, I know it's sad. There's a part of it that is sad, but I always think it's kind of cool. I think if you're an actor, you want to play that part as well, right? Like you want to sort of play everything out. And yeah, anyways, I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post your thoughts down below. Like, do you think Rosita's going to die? Do you think there's other characters that could die here? And yeah, definitely post all your thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.